Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing a long-awaited tutorial of this Christmas reindeer tumbler. This was inspired by Amanda from Magnolia Roots Creations. She is incredibly talented, you guys. When I say incredibly talented, I'm not joking. Go follow all of her social medias. She is so great at making tumblers. I will link all of her information below, and we'll go ahead and get started. So first things first, we're going to prep and sand this tumbler and clean it off with some rubbing alcohol so that dust doesn't stick to the cup. And I'm going in to make my stripes with this Stripe Assistant tool. This is from the Amy's Make Everything. I will link that in the description box. I do have a discount code with them. It's Mitten in all capital letters. That will save you 10%. I do a ton of striped cups, so this is something that I use daily in my craft room, and it saves so much time not having to measure out, each section of the stripes. So we'll go ahead and line the stripes. If you don't have a tool, you can just measure them out manually with your ruler and a Sharpie or whatever you need to do. I'm going to start off by taping off the second and fourth sections. My thought process is that I'm going to start with the darkest colors first and then go to the lightest colors. So after I put painter's tape over the second and fourth sections, I went in with my Rust-Oleum spray paint, and once that was dry, I applied a very, very thin coat of epoxy to those two sections. And next we're going in with Sookie and Emerald City from Peachy Olive Glitters. I do have a discount code with Peachy as well. That is Mitten10 for 10% off. I will link that in the description box as well, just in case you forget the code. And immediately after applying that glitter, I'm going to remove the tape so it doesn't get stuck on once that epoxy has cured. Once the epoxy is dried, we're going to go in with the Crystalette glitter glue to cover the raw glitter sections to make sure that there's no movement once we apply our lighter glitters. This is optional. This is what I do to keep my glitters in place. I'm very strict with myself about glitters not moving around on the cup. So I use this to adhere everything. I usually do a couple of layers of the Krylon Triple Thick spray as well before I do a coat of the Crystalette glitter glue, just to really, really seal that in place. It's up to you if you want to be that extra, but this is how I get my stripes so perfect and no glitter contamination in any of the sections. So once the glitter glue is dried, I let that sit for about 2 hours. I go in with my painter's tape again and cover up the first and the third section of the glitter that we had just covered with the glitter glue. I'm then going to spray paint the second and fourth sections with white and gold and let that dry. Once that's dry, we're going to do the same thing we did with the red and green. We're going to apply white and gold, which is Flurries and Cleopatra from Peachy Olive Glitters, and do the same thing. Pull the tape immediately, let that cure, spray it with the triple thick spray if you'd like, or you can go directly in with the Crystalette glitter glue. This is what I mean when I say I'm really strict with myself about glitter contamination. This is me picking out individual little pieces of glitter out of my white because there were some leftover glitter flakes in my paintbrush from my glitter glue brush. So this is how extra I am if you wanted to know what I'm really like. Once all of my glitter glue was dry, I went in with 2 coats of epoxy. It depends on what brand I'm using at the time, whether I do 2 or 3 coats. You'll have to gauge for yourself to see how thick your epoxy is, how thin your epoxy is, but you do want it to be completely smooth, because when you lay your vinyl down, it is metallic and it does show every little bump that is on the epoxy. So make sure it is completely smooth so you don't see that. So I wasn't able to locate the frame that I found on a web link that I can link for you guys. I found it, I don't know, a couple of years ago. I don't recall where I got it. I got it for free on Google somewhere. So I've added that in my Mitten Makers group. If you want the exact file, you'll need to join to get that. I don't have a way to link it to this tutorial, but I did find a paid version in Cricut Design Space. It's fairly similar, the shape's just a little bit off, but here's how I do the offset. So the black portion of this frame is going to be the white section in my tumbler. The gray in the frame is going to be the offset, which is the gold portion in the tumbler that you guys have seen. And then the decals are hand lettered from Diamonds and Dust. She has 3 variations. There is a wine, a liquor, and then just a reindeer name one. That's what I'm showing you guys in this screen recording here, but she does have 3 others as well. I believe they're about $5 a piece, and they do come with offsets. So here you're seeing me just resize the decal to fit, or the lettering to fit within the frame. Once I have that where I want it, I'm going to resize the frame, and for my 30-ounce skinnies, I do 6 inches tall for the frame, and you'll need to measure the offset 6 inches, which is the gold portion. And then for my 20-ounce skinnies, I do 5 inches tall. So I just realized that I didn't film the stripe portion of this tutorial, so I will just tell you guys the measurements. So you're going to cut your gold vinyl at 0.20 height by 11.5 width. You'll need 3 stripes per cup to complete this design. And once you lay that striping down, you're going to want to go in with a coat of epoxy to act as a barrier between your stripes and your frame. If you lay your stripes and go in directly into laying your frame, because the vinyl is metallic, it shows every little bump. You're going to be able to see the stripes underneath the frame, and once you coat the epoxy, it's completely still visible. So it's not going to hide it, so make sure you're putting a barrier between those 2 layers of vinyl, and then proceed through with finishing the tumbler. So I found that hand placing the inner portion of the frame is way easier for me than trying to use transfer tape. Transfer tapes are typically kind of foggy, so you can't get the exact center point most of the time, and this will not lift back up once you lay it down. So I just hand place them and go through and make sure all of my little air bubbles are pushed out of there, if you can push them out. Otherwise, you can poke them with your X-Acto, and once you cover it with epoxy, you're not able to see any of the little pokes in the frame there. So don't worry about that. Just make sure you're not like gouging out big holes in your frame or anything like that, and you won't be able to see it once the final coats of epoxy are on there. So here I'm going in with the lettering that I was just weeding, and then I'm going to go in with this red metallic vinyl for blitzen at the bottom. You're welcome to use water slide on this design. I've tried it that way and it just looks very dull. It's kind of a faded or like a muted black in the lettering. And then of course the red lettering at the bottom is going to be water slide as well, which doesn't really give it my most favorite look ever. So I just take the extra time to go through with the vinyl. And I will tell you, this red vinyl is a pain in the butt to try to remove from the backing. So I actually use packing tape to transfer this instead of regular transfer tape for vinyl. So that's how I do that. And then you'll see me going in and hand placing the frame again. I don't use the transfer tape. What I do is try to find the center. I try to line the points of the frame, the tips of the frame, or the outer tips. I don't know how to even word that, but I try to line that up with the center stripe on the cup. And this gold vinyl that I'm linking for you guys is really great about being lifted off of the tumbler. It doesn't rip or crinkle or crack or anything like that. So you can play with it a little bit to get it centered if you need to. Don't be afraid to do that to get it completely centered. And then I take my thumb and I run it vertically up and down the cup in the center and kind of split it in half. And then I work my way left and then I work my way right. And that is the best way that I've found to get the frame to not crinkle up. A lot of people have a hard time getting the frame not to lift around the edges because it is such an intricate design and it's a large frame. So that's what I found works. And then once that is completely smooth around the edges, I go in with a coat of polyacrylic to seal in all of the metallic vinyl. That's going to cause it to stay flat. Once you put your coats of epoxy on there, it's not going to seep underneath there and lift that vinyl up that you just laid down. So once I put the polyacrylic on there, like I said, depending on the epoxy brand that you're using, you're going to do either 1 or 2 final coats to finish this tumbler off. And my last coat, sometimes I put Cullen from Feather Bear Bling in there just to give the frame a little bit of an extra flair, I guess. But other than that, the design is done. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments, and go ahead and like and subscribe. Join my Mitten Makers group on Facebook if you would like to see more content behind the scenes, if you'd like to watch me go live, things like that. And I will see you guys next week.